Okay, so you essentially have doubled your income and cut your hours in half. Correct. And that is how you run your business, and you will not sacrifice that for a new client.
That is right.
Hi, I am Kelly Berry, VP of Operations here at Fitness Revolution. And at FR, we empower business owners to build and grow profitable businesses that they are passionate about. We do that through a combination of our coaching process, our content, and our proprietary fitness business alignment system. Through that combination, we provide the long-term solution to burnout. We've been doing that now for 18 years. July is our anniversary, so since 2005, so a long time. And in What's Working Now, we surface and share what's working right now, how it's getting done, and best practices from our very own successful fitness business owners that we work with here in FR. In this episode, we are going to talk to Izzy Libmann-McCauley. She is the owner of Izzy Fit Personal Training and Nutrition Coaching and True Fit Personal Training in Evanston, Illinois. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about that, but today we're going to be talking to her about personal training. So I've also invited Izzy's success coach, Pamela McElry. Most of you probably know her. I've invited her to join us today because she's worked with Izzy on exactly what we're going to talk about. And she's also helped more business owners that she's worked with implement this same thing. And so if you're a gym owner that does personal training, or you have trainers in your gym that do personal training, or you're thinking about adding personal training as an offer, I think that you're going to find this very, very, very valuable. Izzy has a unique spin on this that's really awesome. A little bit about Izzy, or Isabel, Izzy as we know her. She has been a personal trainer and business owner for more than 10 years now. She specializes in strength training, nutrition, kettlebells, pre and postnatal training, and mobility and developmental patterning for a diverse clientele. So a lot. She's got a lot going on there. She came to personal training in kind of a unique way. She was a theater major at Northwestern in Evanston, and she was also an event planner and publicist, just very, very busy at that time. And it wasn't until she herself hired a personal trainer that she recognized what a powerful experience that was and the impact that she could have. So she had a big aha moment. She decided to become a personal trainer so that she could help others feel stronger, healthier, and most importantly, more empowered. And so that's where Izzy Fit was born. Izzy has been a part of FR as long as I have, at least. I feel like I've known her forever, but she's an extremely valuable member of our community. And so when she's not running True Fit and Izzy Fit, she's a pet mom. Her dogs and cat that she loves, and hanging out with friends and family, traveling and doing all kinds of fun stuff. Also sounds like she's getting more certifications or continuing education. She's got a lot of that. So welcome, Izzy. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today. Is there anything I left out or you want to add?
Thanks, Kelly. No, that covered a lot of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I mentioned that we're going to talk to you today about personal training. And while that sounds like, pretty obvious, I think that, the reason we have you here is that you do something very unique or, pretty unique with personal training. And I want to talk to you about it. So tell me what makes personal training with Izzy a little bit different, or what do you do differently than a lot of fitness professionals?
So when I started personal training, I modeled it really how I was trained by my personal trainers, which was the one-on-one hour-long session where, and this was like 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You would do something different every session, and you were there to like chat and lift weights. So when I came to FR, because I needed a little bit more structure, I was sort of running out of hours in my day to fit more people in. And as we all know, our limiting factor is time, and you kind of hit this ceiling of how much you can make. And as then like a single woman, I was like, I need to make all the money and be financially independent. And like, so FR during a meeting suggested like, well, why don't you train two people at once? And I said, well, because I don't do semi-private training. And the coaches in the room said, well, that doesn't have to be semi-private training. It's still personal training. You see a person for a consultation, you see how they move, you create a program for them based on that session and based on their goals. And then you have the clients with these two programs. Then it was on a clipboard. And you just teach them how to do the movement, and then they count their own reps, they track their own weights. And it sounded like a totally foreign concept to me, because that's not what I experienced as a client. It's certainly not what anybody else at the gym was doing with their clients. And so it felt like it wasn't possible for me to do. So this is a very long answer to your question of what I do. I took the leap. I sort of figured out, I shadowed other people that were doing it, that were in the FR community. I traveled around to different spots, and then sort of got my feet wet and started slowly. So if I had got a new client, I would explain to them that they were going to be doing 2-on-1 training, and then I sort of filled in the gaps. And now I only do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think Pamela can speak to this a little bit better, that there's some, some limiting beliefs there, that like personal training has to be one-on-one is the first one. And the second one I think that we see all the time is that anytime you don't fulfill number one exactly as, I guess, defined, people feel the need to discount. So you do not discount. You do not offer like semi-private. It's personal training only.
Right. So that was another thing I just remember this meeting so vividly, because I countered, well, I can't do this because I'd have to discount my rates. And one of the coaches said, why? You're providing exactly the same service to client A as you would be to client B. They just happen to be in a room together. As we know, a lot of times, and I kind of touched on this, when it's one-on-one personal training, like there can just be a lot of chatting and a lot of time sort of spent milling about. Not everybody does this, but there's kind of a lot of wasted time in that, or there can be in that hour. Mm-hmm. And if you bring in a second person as a coach, you're able to keep your eye, or you should be able to keep your eye on multiple things at once. So you can still watch them perform their exercise, still determine if you have to progress or regress it. Then you can also kind of step away and look at somebody else for a second. So you're not, there's no need to nitpick every mm-hmm. single movement of every single client. So I charged, I didn't change my fees. I didn't get a lot of pushback because I got a lot of help with how I would present it to the client. And the good thing is, if client B can't make it for one session, I still have client A, I'm still making a decent hourly fee. Mm-hmm. Instead of either having to tell them, hey, client A, guess what? This person can't make it, so I'm going to have to double your fee. But I'm also not like wasting an hour mm-hmm. making nothing.
Yeah.
I think there are other components too. Obviously at that time, if I recall correctly, it was about like, how can I make more money without mm-hmm. working twice as many hours? And so you actually cut back your hours. And as it stands today, even though it's years later, like you don't work evenings, you don't work Wednesdays, you work 4 mornings a week, and you have basically a full client load. But I think the other component that's really helpful to help like wrap your head around is that, one-on-one personal training is such a silo of a service deliverable. And when you're trying to create a community of people that feel empowered and that are part of something else and are learning how to become better and different and embrace these new habits, that second person helps you do that, because there's another person there. Like you said, there sometimes can be some chatter in a one-on-one session, that maybe there's still chatter, but it's like, oh, well, I can see this person doing this and I used to be like them, or like, I want to aspire to be like them. And I think it really also helps build up your community, even though you're a personal training business versus, a group training business as an example.
Yeah, that's so spot on. Because if you're looking at like self-determination theory and you're talking about what people need to thrive, one of those things is belonging and community. And when you are running a business that is purely, like in our gym right now, it's purely personal training, it can be kind of hard. And I love having two clients come in who are at completely different places in their fitness journey, because like Pamela just said, like you can aspire to do something that one person's doing, or the other person can sort of mentor the other.
Mhm.
So it's great.
Yeah. And I can see that creating like an additional layer of accountability for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just you that they're showing up for, it's the other person that they train with. I can also see that layering in some, for the person who may be ahead in their fitness journey, you mentioned mentoring, but like a sense of responsibility to like encourage, or, maybe they get fulfillment out of that as well. So it's just like, maybe some bonus growth they didn't really plan on getting when they signed up that they're now getting because the format is a little bit different. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Pamela, what other like limiting beliefs do you see? I know Izzy named a few, like I can't do that. My clients won't go for it. I'm going to have to discount. What other limiting beliefs do you see business owners have about taking the leap to do this?
I still think that the biggest ones are like, I don't know how this could work. Like my clients are not going to be down for this. They're so used to one-on-one training. Like, why are they going to go for this? I think some of the others are just like getting out of the track that as a personal trainer you've been on. So even though, a lot of people are running more than one person training businesses, so group training, semi-private, there are still, I don't even know the number, but there are still very many people who want to deliver this more personalized one-on-one, two-on-one service. And those who have been doing one-on-one for so long, who've never been shown or like have been able to see, like Izzy mentioned, she was able to go, or she took the time to go to a couple other facilities and see how this was actually delivered and how it could be delivered. It's just hard to envision, it's like, you both know that I'm terrible with analogies, but if you're trying to learn a new language for the first time and you've spoken one language for 30 years, of course, on that first lesson, it's going to feel really hard. And there's no way I'm going to ever be able to have a conversation in a different language and understand what I'm saying and doing. But I kind of feel like this is the same thing. Like if you just take a moment and say, well, how can I simplify this? How could I make this work, rather than I can't, but like, if I needed to, what would I do? How would I do it? And, honestly, I think it comes down to personal trainers who work one-on-one that have a full client load. I mean, unless they start to shift into 45, 50, 60-hour weeks, which is not going to be sustainable the long term, this is really the only way to do it, to increase revenue, that is, without having a staff. And a lot of people, Izzy might be one of the few exceptions because she runs TrueFit that allows people to train in her space. But, a lot of people who do personal training don't want to manage other people. Like they want to run their business and work for themselves. But at a certain point, the returns are diminishing because there's no opportunity for them to like have a good life balance or like spend time with family and friends, reap the rewards of their effort without decreasing the hours and condensing their schedule to offer the same quality service just in a 2-on-1 model versus a 1-on-1 model.
Yep. Yeah. And I think to that point, we've talked a lot about someone who has a group training facility. Maybe they have some interest in personal training, or maybe they're thinking about like adding personal training as a core offer. This is, if you're just getting started, like this is a great way to make something that's already going to be like a valuable add-on to your business twice as valuable. You know, whether you can train like through the trainers that you already have, or maybe it's something that you're going to be like taking on as a business owner. You know, why wouldn't you want to at least try something that you can basically double the amount of revenue in half the amount of time? Yeah. So Pamela, how do you overcome the I have to discount it limiting belief?
Well, it takes a little bit of work sometimes. It's a lot of just like, well, what if the situation looked like this? And the one thing that I've done the most recently that helped the most or felt the most successful in conquering the limiting belief was, let's imagine that, you know, I'm talking to a FR coaching partner right now, and they're doing one-on-one personal training. What if someone needed to come at a different time and it was the only time that they could come, but you already had someone training? Would you make an exception one time for these two people to train together? The answer is usually yes. Like, I don't think I've ever presented it that way and someone's like, it's not going to work. Or like, another coach is on vacation, like 1 week, can we push people together? So if we can do it that one time or for that 1 week, and then the client still feels successful in their session, let's see if when we get a new client, so maybe we don't convert current clients yet, but when we get a new client, we explain to them in the sales process that personal training is delivered in a 2-on-1 model, and this is how we do it. And then all new clients come in that way, and then start to transition current clients into from the 1-on-1 to the 2-on-1 model is usually pretty helpful.
Awesome. Izzy, question for you. Have you tried this with 3-on-1?
I have.
Yeah.
Kind of for the same reason that Pamela's saying, like, what if the schedule, I train a lot of moms who have a ton of kids, and like you both know, like you have a finite amount of time. So I'm going to do my best to get you in. And it's great. Now, like, it's going to depend on the space that you have. I wouldn't be able to get away with it every hour because I share, it's like I own a co-working space with 15 other trainers, and we all need to have access to this space. But when I have to do it, like, it's fun. The hour goes by really fast. They still all have their own programs, and sometimes they just work harder because it's like I have to be on that much more. So it's great. And I still don't discount my prices.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. Like, what are some of the other like kind of unexpected benefits or things that maybe the clients didn't really expect that would come of this that you see? So whether it's yourself as a business owner or with your clients, like what are some of the other things that you think make it kind of awesome?
Well, we mentioned accountability. We've got clients who, like, you know, ask where their buddy is if they're out of town, and they get kind of sad. We create community. A lot of my clients have become friends outside of our hour. For me, I find one-on-one really boring. So I just get to work my brain a little bit more when I have 2-on-1. We mentioned also, like, the schedule is more flexible. So I've been able to work towards training from 7 to noon most days. I don't work weekends and I don't work evenings. And it's because my schedule is a little bit like Tetris. I can shift people around as they need because they're going on vacation or something came up, without having to like lose hours in my week. So I think those are the primary benefits. And I will also say, like, it's not for every client. I have referred out to other trainers many times just because I didn't think this was going to be the right setting for somebody. If somebody like has just come out of some crazy rehab, or, you know, they would need my eyes on them and it would take away from the other person's session, then I refer out. But then you're a hero because you're doing what's in the best interest of this person.
Right.
And I think there's a lot to be said about that. But there's enough people out there that would 100% do it.
Right.
One thing you said.
And, sorry. There's one more thing.
Yep.
Because one-on-one training or two-on-one training isn't as micromanagey, a lot of my clients now have the vocabulary to do the exercises that they're doing on their own. So they are able to take their programs and sort of understand how they're created. And then when they go on vacation, I mean, of course, I'll provide something for them if they ask, but they're sort of able to play and do their own thing on their own, which is incredible. That's also, I think, a really big bonus.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Pamela?
I was just going to chime in on the, the Tetris model of the schedule and like not losing income because of a vacation or because of travel or illness or sickness or anything like that. Like when you can set up a model that allows you to move people around and accommodate schedules so that your personal income doesn't get grossly affected by people being out or people being away, or even you being like you, the trainer, being out or being away. I think it makes the idea of continuing to run a personal training business, at least long-term or somewhat long-term, seem more like an ideal long-term vision versus like, well, 2 months out of every year, I take a pay cut. And how do I manage that? And, that shifts into other things and auto pay as well for personal training. But I think it's really valuable to have a sustainable income from a business perspective when you're able to have more sessions that are like this model versus not.
Exactly. So Izzy, did I understand in the conversation about you referring clients out, do you not do any one-on-one training? No. Okay. So you essentially have doubled your income and cut your hours in half. Correct. And that is how you run your business, and you will not sacrifice that for a new client.
That is right. And they're talking about like how you price your services is probably like a whole other meeting. But in the range of personal training rates in Evanston, I'm not at the highest. So like, I think that breaks down a little bit of the barrier too. I'm not the lowest either, but like, oh no, I've lost my train of thought or why I was telling you this. What was your question originally?
Well, I just mentioned how you have basically doubled your income and cut your hours in half.
And yes, and that I will not. Yeah. Right. So here's what my point was. If I were to see somebody one-on-one, I would blow the highest rate of personal training out of the water. So it doesn't make sense. So that is kind of a consideration. Like, what do you price your personal training rates? Because in Evanston, they don't really go higher than $120 an hour. So I can't really, I wouldn't feel like I could say, oh, you want to train with me just one-on-one? That's going to be $240 an hour. And I'm not going to want to make less than that on one, so it's actually more beneficial for my hour to say no and provide somebody else with that business.
Exactly. So you've essentially determined this is the rate that I need to make. And the way I do that is by training 2 people at the same time. And it doesn't make sense to train one. Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think it just speaks to like, I think the development of you and like your business owner acumen over the years to be able to, do that, be confident in the decision, and not be, I think, what we see is a lot of people are just the what if. Well, what if no one will go for this? Or what if like all of a sudden, nobody wants to do this anymore? Or what if, all the what ifs you have as a business owner.
Yeah. But I think you are sort of the creator of what you put out there. So if you are going into it saying, well, no one's going to sign up for this, then how are you, like, How are you
Yeah.
presenting it to a potential client? So, it takes some practice, and you get your reps under you, like explaining to your friends and your family and your coworkers, like, why this is such a good idea. Once it gets to the first client that you meet with, you're going to actually believe that this is true. And there's not like any, negativity being presented to the person. I don't think I've ever had somebody say like, oh, you know what? This doesn't sound like a good idea
Yeah.
by the end of a consultation. So.
And I think, you're trying to not use the what ifs, but if you spin it the other way, like, what if you can't see another client because your schedule is so full? Like, if you're, as most personal trainers are, want to help other people, like, what if you can't help that person who really needs your help because you're not willing to make some adjustments to the model so that you can see more people?
Yep. I like that too. Yeah, I think it's great. I think, the main things that you've talked about, it's kind of like, you do have to work on the presentation and like the confidence in it. And if that means that you need to like see it in action, like now, I know when you were doing it, Izzy, you probably did have to travel, but now you probably have the opportunity to like take a peek into somebody's session virtually, talk to somebody about how they do it, try to avoid mistakes that maybe you made early on. But it sounds like it's really successful. A lot of hidden benefits, I think, for both you and your clients. It's kind of a no-brainer, especially if it allows you to have work-life balance and let you continue to do what you love.
Yeah. And it does allow me to have one-on-one client, and that's my mom.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Pamela, anything else you want to add, or?
Anything I add would just be probably repeating. I do think that like there's a good reason to highlight the pricing, like the model of it. And it's like, one, I remember asked Izzy for some clarification one time when I was working with another FR coaching partner to take this leap. And it was like, what are you doing, or what are you saying to yourself to determine? And I think she's already said this, but it's like the rate for the hourly rate for the monthly fee needs to be the minimum amount you'd be willing to kind of work for that match the standard industry rate for your area. And the only reason I want to repeat that is because I think that that's one of the bigger obstacles for people is like, to not discount, but it's like, I will work for $90 an hour. If I have 2 people training, that's great. I make twice as much money. But if somebody does cancel or get sick at the last minute, I'm at least in that hour making what I'm willing to make to work for an hour, or what I need to make for that hour, versus like having to cancel the entire session or lose money, whatever it might be. And I think that it's just a really great way to look at it, and a necessary way to look at it, so that you're providing for yourself as a person and a business owner while you're trying to help so many other people.
Yep. I think, limiting beliefs they're tough, but there are ways around them for sure. So it's good, Izzy, to hear you talk about it. You said you've been doing this for 8 years, so obviously it's working for you. So I appreciate you taking some time to share with us, and we will talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me.
Right. Thanks, Izzy.
Thanks, Izzy.